I am about to show you exactly which blood pressure number is the true warning sign for your heart, and why the order in which you read them completely changes everything. Most older adults stare at those two numbers feeling anxious and confused because doctors rarely have the time to explain which one actually matters most as we age. The truth is, looking at the wrong number first can give you a false sense of security while hidden damage is happening right under your nose. I remember a man named Arthur who was 73 years old and completely ignored his top number because his bottom number was considered perfect, which led to a very terrifying wake-up call. I have seen this exact misunderstanding time and time again in my practice, where patients feel dizzy, constantly tired, or have unexplainable morning headaches, all because they were focusing on the wrong measurement. Your doctor might have even told you in the past that the bottom number is the one that causes strokes, but that information is often outdated for anyone over the age of 60. The order matters, and the biggest danger is not always the number itself, but the gap between them. Before we dive in, drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and whether you've struggled with confusing blood pressure readings before. I want to hear your experience. 1. Pay immediate attention to the top number on your monitor, which is called the systolic pressure, before you even look at the bottom number. Focusing on this first reading gives you the most accurate picture of how much physical force your blood is putting on your aging blood vessels every single time your heart beats. Robert came to see me because he was terrified after experiencing severe dizzy spells that seemingly came out of nowhere during his daily walks. He was 68 years old and had always been proud that his bottom blood pressure number was a healthy 78. So his mistake was completely ignoring the fact that his top number was sitting at 165. He thought only the bottom number caused health issues, so he brushed off the top number as just a normal part of getting older. Once we shifted his focus to safely managing that top number through simple daily habits, his dizziness completely vanished, and his energy levels returned to what they were a decade ago. The top number simply measures the pressure inside your arteries, the exact moment your heart contracts and pumps blood out to the rest of your body. As we get older, our blood vessels naturally lose some of their youthful elasticity and become slightly stiffer and more rigid over the decades. Because of this natural stiffening process, the heart has to work significantly harder to push the blood through those rigid vessels, which forces that top number to rise higher and higher as the years go by. A recent study focused on senior health revealed that this condition is actually the most common type of high blood pressure for adults over the age of 65. The researchers found that managing this top number is the single most effective way to protect the delicate blood vessels in your brain and heart as you age. When you take your reading at home, write down the top number first and track it carefully over the course of a week to see your true baseline. Do not let a perfectly normal bottom number trick you into thinking your overall cardiovascular health is in the safe zone if your top number is constantly creeping into the higher ranges. You want to look for patterns in that top reading, noticing if it goes up after certain heavy meals or if it is consistently high first thing in the morning, right when you wake up. This is a very simple habit, but it fundamentally changes how you view your heart health and allows you to catch potential issues long before they turn into emergencies. Most older adults can try this safely, as it merely requires a shift in how you read and record your daily monitor results without making any physical changes to your routine. If you use blood pressure medication, check your readings closely because sudden changes in how you track your numbers might reveal patterns you need to share with your healthcare provider. This simple awareness supports steadier readings and a much calmer mind. 2. Here's another simple habit that most people completely overlook when checking their daily numbers. Calculate the exact numerical difference between your top number and your bottom number to find what is medically known as your pulse pressure. Knowing the gap between these two numbers provides a crystal clear window into how stiff or how flexible your arteries are right now at this very moment in your life. Susan was a vibrant 72-year-old woman who was incredibly happy because her bottom number was dropping beautifully into the low 60s every time she checked it. Her mistake was celebrating the low bottom number without understanding that her reading of 150/65 meant the vast distance between the two figures was forcing her heart to work under immense and unnecessary strain. Once she learned how to monitor the gap and started implementing gentle routines to soften her blood vessels, the gap closed to a much safer range, and she stopped feeling breathless after simply climbing the stairs. The gap between your systolic top number and your diastolic bottom number is an indicator of cardiovascular aging that most doctors simply do not have the time to calculate and explain during a brief 15-minute checkup. Ideally, you want the difference between these two numbers to be somewhere around 40 points, because that means your blood vessels are expanding and contracting properly with every single heartbeat. When the top number climbs high, but the bottom number drops very low, creating a gap of 60 points or more, it means your arteries have become rigid tubes that cannot absorb the physical force of the blood being pumped through them. This wide gap puts a tremendous amount of wear and tear on your organs, especially your kidneys and your brain, because the blood is hitting them with too much unbuffered physical pressure. To figure this out for yourself, simply take your top number and subtract the bottom number immediately after you take your reading on your home monitor. If your reading is 140/70, the gap is exactly 70 points, which is a wide pulse pressure that tells you your arteries need some gentle, daily support. Write this gap number right next to your daily readings in your logbook, so you can start paying attention to how it fluctuates depending on your hydration levels, your daily stress, and your gentle movement routines. Another helpful step is to simply bring this specific gap number to your next doctor's appointment, as it provides them with a much deeper understanding of your actual arterial health than just handing them the raw readings alone. If you have severe shortness of breath or sudden chest pain while monitoring these numbers, seek emergency care immediately, as these are signs that require urgent medical attention. Tracking this gap supports steadier readings and long-term vascular health. 3. One more easy change is something you can do right now, sitting comfortably in your favorite chair. Practice a dedicated, slow breathing routine for exactly 5 minutes before you even think about sliding the blood pressure cuff onto your bare arm. This simple daily action acts as a natural calming mechanism for your nervous system, rapidly relaxing your blood vessels and dropping your top number before you press the start button. David was a 65-year-old gentleman who would get so incredibly stressed out just looking at his blood pressure cuff that his top number would instantly spike 20 points from sheer panic and frustration alone. His mistake was sitting down and immediately pressing the start button while his heart was still racing from the anxiety of anticipating a bad reading. We introduced a very gentle, timed breathing exercise that he performed every single time before touching the machine, completely changing his physical reaction to the monitor. His top number dropped significantly, the false high readings disappeared entirely, and he finally felt a quiet sense of control over his daily health routine instead of constant fear. When you feel even a tiny bit of stress, whether it is from anticipating a high reading or just the physical rush of your normal daily activities, your body releases stress hormones that instantly constrict your blood vessels. This invisible physical constriction forces the top number to shoot up rapidly, giving you a completely inaccurate picture of your true resting blood pressure and causing unnecessary worry that only makes the problem worse over time. By engaging in deep, controlled breathing, you are physically sending a safety signal to your brain, which directly commands the blood vessels to dilate and soften, allowing the blood to flow with much less physical resistance. This is an incredibly powerful, same-day tool that does not require any special equipment or advanced physical ability, making it absolutely perfect for older adults who want to protect their heart from the comfort of their own home. Find a comfortable chair where your back is fully supported and place both of your feet completely flat on the floor to ground your body before you begin the process. Close your eyes gently and inhale deeply through your nose while counting slowly to 4, making sure to feel your stomach expand outward rather than lifting your chest and your shoulders up to your ears. Hold that breath softly in your chest for a count of 7 if you can do so comfortably, and then exhale very slowly through pursed lips for a count of 8, making a quiet whooshing sound as you release all of the air. Repeat this exact breathing cycle at least 4 times in a row, letting your physical muscles relax deeply into the chair, and only then should you slide your arm into the blood pressure cuff to begin your reading. You can do this at home. If you feel lightheaded or dizzy while holding your breath, simply return to your normal breathing pattern and do not force the numbers, as the goal is physical relaxation, not a strict breathing test. This gentle routine supports steadier readings and prevents false stress spikes. 4. Another helpful step is to completely overhaul the physical way you are taking your measurements at home. Follow a strict, silent, and perfectly positioned resting protocol every single time you use your home blood pressure machine. Doing this guarantees that you are treating your true, accurate numbers rather than dangerously treating false highs caused by simple user errors that happen in the living room. Mary came to me feeling utterly exhausted because she was recently put on a much stronger dose of blood pressure medication after her home readings were consistently showing up as dangerously high. She was 74 years old, and her simple mistake was using a cuff that was much too small for her arm, while also talking casually to her husband and crossing her legs every time the machine was actively running. Once she swapped out the cuff for the correct size and started following the strict silence and posture rules, her numbers dropped back into the normal safe range almost overnight. Her doctor was able to safely reduce her medication back to the original dose, and she stopped feeling so incredibly drained and fatigued throughout the morning and afternoon. The home blood pressure monitor is a highly sensitive piece of medical equipment that is specifically designed to pick up on the tiniest physical vibrations and pressures inside your arteries as the cuff slowly deflates. If your bladder is full, if your legs are crossed at the knee, or if you are having a casual conversation while the machine is working, your muscles are contracting and pushing your blood pressure up artificially. Even something as incredibly simple as having your arm hanging down by your side instead of being properly supported at heart level can add up to 10 unnecessary points to your top systolic number without you even realizing it. When you record these false high numbers and show them to your doctor, it can directly lead to aggressive and completely unnecessary medical treatments that leave you feeling dizzy, physically weak, and unwell. First, make absolutely sure that the cuff you are using fits your bare upper arm properly. You should be able to slide just 2 fingertips comfortably under the edge of the cuff when it is completely deflated. Sit in a supportive chair with your back resting firmly against the seat. Keep both feet entirely flat on the ground, and rest your arm on a stable table so that the middle of the cuff is exactly level with your heart. You must sit in complete and total silence for 5 full minutes before pressing the start button, and absolutely do not speak, read, or watch television while the cuff is actively squeezing your arm. Always take 2 separate readings roughly 1 or 2 minutes apart, and if the numbers are wildly different from each other, take a third reading and use the average of the last 2 for your daily record book. This is easy on the joints and requires nothing more than a few minutes of quiet, seated patience. If you use blood pressure medication, check your readings closely because correcting your measurement technique might cause your recorded numbers to drop significantly, which is vital information your doctor needs to see. Implementing this accurate protocol supports steadier readings and prevents harmful overtreatment. 5. Drink a small measured glass of room temperature water right before you go to sleep at night, and drink another small glass immediately after you open your eyes in the morning. This simple hydration routine prevents your blood from becoming too thick and concentrated overnight, which directly stops the dangerous morning rise in your top systolic number. William was a 69-year-old man who was incredibly frustrated because his morning readings were always alarmingly high, even though his numbers were perfect for the rest of the day. His mistake was completely stopping all of his fluid intake after 3 in the afternoon because he did not want to wake up to use the bathroom during the night. The lack of water caused severe overnight dehydration, which made his morning systolic number skyrocket into the danger zone right when he woke up. We introduced a small 4-ounce glass of water before bed and another right at waking, and his morning pressure spikes smoothed out completely, allowing him to start his day without a racing heart and a pounding headache. When you sleep for 7 or 8 hours without taking in any liquids, your body naturally loses a significant amount of water simply through the physical process of breathing and light sweating. As your overall water volume decreases, the sodium naturally present in your bloodstream becomes highly concentrated, which physically thickens your blood and makes it much harder to pump. When you wake up, your heart suddenly has to push this thicker, concentrated blood through your resting arteries, requiring a massive surge of physical force that sends your top number climbing extremely high. By introducing just a little bit of steady hydration at the right times, you are physically thinning the blood back to a normal consistency, making the morning workload infinitely easier on your aging heart. This is a very simple change, but it removes a massive amount of physical strain from your cardiovascular system during the most vulnerable hours of the early morning. Here is another simple habit to implement this safely without ruining your sleep. Keep a small cup holding exactly 4 ounces of water right on your nightstand and take slow, steady sips about 30 minutes before you plan to turn out the lights. When you wake up the next morning, sit on the edge of the bed and drink another 4 ounces of water before you even stand up to walk to the bathroom or the kitchen. If you have been diagnosed with heart failure, or if your doctor has placed you on strict fluid restrictions, you must consult your healthcare provider before changing how much water you drink daily. Most older adults can try this safely by just shifting when they drink their water, rather than drastically increasing the total daily amount. This supports steadier readings when you wake up. 6. Pause for 10 full seconds on the edge of your bed or your chair, and actively pump your ankles up and down before you attempt to stand up completely. This brief physical pause gives your blood vessels the necessary time to adjust to the sudden change in gravity, preventing a dangerous and rapid drop in your top blood pressure number. Linda was a 77-year-old woman who loved working in her garden, but she was terrified of falling because she would feel completely faint every time she stood up from her gardening stool. Her mistake was standing up far too quickly for her age, causing the blood to instantly pool in her lower legs, while her top systolic number plummeted, leaving her brain temporarily without enough oxygen. She simply started counting to 10 and pointing her toes up and down before she ever put her full weight on her feet, and the fainting spells vanished entirely. She felt physically stable again, and she was able to return to her garden without the constant fear of collapsing. As we get older, the microscopic sensors located in your neck that tell your blood vessels to tighten and push blood upward when you stand simply begin to react much slower. When you transition from a seated or lying position to a standing position too quickly, gravity instantly pulls your blood downward into your legs and your feet. Because those aging sensors are delayed, your blood vessels do not tighten fast enough to push the blood back up to your heart and your brain, causing a sharp, sudden drop in that critical top pressure number. This temporary lack of pressure is what causes that terrifying dizzy feeling, the blurred vision, and the physical weakness that leads to so many devastating falls for older adults in their own homes. Another helpful step is to completely change how you physically move from a resting position to an active position throughout your entire day. When you wake up, roll slowly onto your side, push yourself up to a seated position, and let your legs dangle over the edge of the mattress while you slowly count to 10. While counting, flex your feet by pointing your toes up toward the ceiling and then down toward the floor several times to physically pump the blood out of your lower legs. If you use blood pressure medication, check your readings closely because these drugs are specifically designed to lower your top number, which can make this standing drop even more severe if you move too fast. Always make sure you have a sturdy chair arm, a heavy table, or a stable wall to hold onto when you finally decide to put your full weight firmly onto your feet. This supports steadier readings throughout the entire day. 7. Check the nutrition label on every single can, box, or package in your pantry for the exact milligrams of sodium before you ever heat it up for a meal. This proactive step stops hidden, invisible salt from making your arteries physically rigid and driving your top systolic number into the danger zone without you even realizing it. James was a 70-year-old man who thought he was doing his heart a massive favor by eating a popular store-bought brand of canned vegetable soup every single day for his lunch. His mistake was trusting the healthy-looking pictures on the front of the can, completely unaware that his daily soup contained a massive amount of hidden sodium used simply to preserve the vegetables on the shelf. When we swapped his daily meal for a low-sodium version and taught him how to read the back label, his consistently high top number dropped by 15 points in just a few weeks. He was amazed that such a small change in his grocery routine could have such a profound and immediate physical impact on his daily monitor readings. Excess sodium in your daily diet acts like a powerful sponge, constantly pulling extra water directly into your bloodstream and holding it there for hours at a time. This excess water increases the sheer physical volume of blood pumping through your body, which puts intense outward pressure against the walls of your blood vessels with every single heartbeat. Over time, this constant high-pressure environment physically damages the delicate inner lining of the arteries, making them stiff, rigid, and completely unable to flex the way they are supposed to. When the arteries become rigid tubes, the heart must squeeze with extreme physical force just to move the blood forward, which is exactly why the top systolic number climbs so incredibly high. Comment down below with your favorite simple home-cooked dinner to make during the week so we can share ideas. One more easy change is to flip every single item in your pantry around and look strictly at the sodium line on the black and white nutrition facts panel. You want to completely avoid any single serving of food that contains more than 400 milligrams of sodium, as these items will immediately spike your top number shortly after you eat them. Choose plain frozen vegetables instead of canned versions whenever possible, and if you must use canned beans or vegetables, place them in a strainer and rinse them heavily with cold water for a full minute. This simple rinsing technique physically washes away a large portion of the excess salt used in the canning process before it ever has a chance to enter your body and affect your heart. Most older adults can try this safely without needing to adopt a highly restrictive or overly complicated diet plan, as it only requires a few extra seconds of reading in the kitchen. This supports steadier readings after your meals. 8. Perform exactly 10 minutes of light, steady movement immediately after you finish eating your heaviest meal of the day. This gentle physical activity acts as a natural pressure release valve, safely opening up your blood vessels and taking the physical strain completely off your aging heart. Helen was a 71-year-old woman who was absolutely terrified to exercise because she mistakenly thought any physical exertion would make her heart condition worse or cause her blood pressure to explode. Her mistake was sitting completely still in her recliner for hours after eating dinner, which allowed her blood vessels to remain stiff and forced her resting top number to stay stubbornly high. She started doing very simple wall pushes in her hallway and taking a slow 10-minute walk around her living room right after her evening meal, and she noticed a remarkable difference almost instantly. Her evening blood pressure readings dropped into a beautiful, safe range, and she finally felt a sense of physical confidence returning to her body after years of being afraid to move. When you engage in very light, continuous movement, you are actively asking the large muscles in your legs and your arms to start using more oxygen to perform the work. To deliver this necessary oxygen, your body sends a rapid, natural chemical signal directly to your blood vessels, ordering them to instantly dilate, widen, and physically soften up. Because the vessels are now wider and much more flexible, the blood can flow smoothly and effortlessly throughout your entire body without encountering the usual rigid resistance. This process dramatically lowers the physical force required from the heart to pump the blood, which results in a beautiful, natural drop in your top systolic number that lasts for hours after you stop moving. This is easy on the joints and does not require you to join a gym, buy expensive equipment, or push yourself until you are sweating and out of breath. Simply stand up after you clear your dinner plate and walk at a slow, comfortable pace back and forth down your hallway, or step outside and walk down to the end of your driveway and back. If the weather is bad, stand facing a sturdy wall, place your hands flat against the surface, and perform gentle, slow wall pushes to engage the muscles in your chest and your arms. If you have chest pain, fainting, severe shortness of breath, or one-sided weakness while moving, seek emergency care immediately, as these are critical signs that you must never ignore. By keeping the movements incredibly light and stopping before you feel fatigued, you give your heart the exact physical support it needs to manage its daily workload safely. This supports steadier readings effortlessly. If you know someone over 50 who could benefit from this, share this video and subscribe for more simple blood pressure tips.